The second character of Guilty Gear Strive Season 4, Venom, recently dropped, and people were especially hyped to finally see him after, for lack of a better word, being edged by Arxis for honestly a couple seasons. How do people tend to respond to a new character drop? So typically, when a character releases in this game, people are very quick to judge a character's strengths. Seylor, the final character of Season 3, was considered to be very strong from the first day he released, and ended up being considered a top tier character in that version of the game, Season 3.1. While Abba, the third character of Season 3, was considered to be the worst character in the game when she released, only to end up being quite a powerful counterpick. So powerful, in fact, that she even saw play in this method in the recent Arc War Tour finals. I quickly heard about Venom being garbage on day one, so I decided to give him some time to see if he's actually that bad, or if he had some hidden potential. Now, I did have a big problem. So typically, I tend to try to figure out basic strategies with a character first, before learning like big combos. And on day one, most people are posting like the flashiest combos and setups they could find. But Venom is one of the hardest characters released in this game for a while, since Asuka in Season 2. Now, unlike a straightforward brawler like Seylor, I didn't really know where to start with the character. And my only real point to start with is that he is a legacy character, so I had an idea of how people played him in past Guilty Gear games. So I decided to spend some time in training mode to at least get a handle of his moveset. Venom is a zoning character with big pokes, but unlike the other zoning characters, he doesn't actually manage a unique resource, so when he sets his pool balls, they're just there. He does have the ability to set these balls and hit them with different moves to send them different trajectories and also at different speeds. Unlike previous versions of the character, he only has one formation. It might sound weird if you've only played this game, but in previous Guilty Gear games, he had different formations based on how you did the input for setting the ball. This game he only has one, and he has the ability to set them all out. But there's also other moves that set the ball out, like Carcass Raid or Air Carcass Raid, and also Q5. This was a lot to digest, so I didn't spend too much time in training mode. I basically settled on a high-low mix-up to get me started, and I went to play from there. By far, one of the best ways to start a character is to actually just play them. You can do training mode for as long as you want, but if you don't play matches, you're never going to have the, let's say, reactions in order to actually implement the things that you learned in training. So I was ready to acknowledge that day one was going to be tough. With no real general plan besides what to do after I hit them, I really felt Venom's initial weaknesses. So for starters, he's not that fast. If you compare him to like Kai, for example, he really is just kind of average speed. He feels like he's like soul speed. Now, there are characters with similar-ish run speeds, like Baiken, who are not like super fast by any means. They also have really long range attacks like H Kabari or 2H, where Venom has long pokes that are mids like far slash and 2 slash, but he's not necessarily super good at chasing people down, which is fine because he's a zoner, but on day one I felt the speed problem quite a bit. So on day two, I decided to focus more on building a cohesive neutral game plan rather than playing a bunch. So an interesting thing about Venom's pool balls is not just that the different strengths of attacks send them different distances, but also that pool balls can hit each other. He used to have teleport follow-ups in different formations, but in exchange in this game, he has Air Carcass Raid and changed ball physics, mostly around the fact that balls decelerate, where in an older version of Guilty Gear, it would move at this speed across the whole stream. So I experimented with ways of covering the air and the ground simultaneously first. In this game, a lot of zoners have ways of going from offense to neutral. I was kind of sure he would have a way to do this, but I figured I would start at least by having some basic control of the screen. Now, on day one, I had a lot of success with K set 5K. So this is mostly from remembering what it was like to fight against him. And the idea behind this is that you could dash cancel behind it, you can jump cancel off it, you can special cancel off it. There's a lot of stuff you could do, but when you did do this, you just have to act really quickly because your opponent is not going to stand there and watch you just set balls over and over, especially because it's not as fast as it used to be. There were some interesting ideas that people offered. So for example, there is the idea of doing the K ball into 6P, which covers the air. You would be vulnerable to a ground approach, but you could do 6P Stinger, by taking advantage of the buffer and the fact that hitting a ball counts as making contact with something. But I felt like the input was kind of odd, even though I feel mildly consistent with it. So I wasn't really confident in using this. So my first really big point here was using H set into K set, which requires 2 balls on the screen to be fair. But if you can get both of these on screen, then hitting 5H would create this spread. And if the opponent is jumping, something is going to make contact with them. And not only that, since you're using 5H, you can cancel into something else. So I found this to be quite effective. This really came into point in my games against Soul. Soul traditionally loses to Venom, so not only does Venom have good projectiles in hitting balls and Stinger, as well as the active balls moving independently, but buttons like Venom's very, very active 5K and huge confirmable 2P are annoying to deal with. And sure, the way I was playing it that day was death by 1,000 cuts, but once Venom gets meter, he can start threatening Dark Angel, a powerful orb that stays on block and hit and carries to the corner, and on hit can be extended with the help of Robokai. And from these games, I really felt like I started to understand what they wanted you to do with the character. So on day 3, I really started to think about how crazy Dark Angel was. It will not disappear until a certain amount of hits will connect. It is also heavily advantageous on block, as well as the guaranteed follow-up on it. Now, one of the most important mechanics in Guilty Gear Strive is the idea of the wall break. When this game came out, actually, people looked at this as a really scrubbing mechanic for new players of like, oh, they can't handle real offense, so they have to like go back to neutral. But it turns out that wall break adds a lot to the strategy of the game. And this is because breaking the wall gives you a status effect called positive bonus, a status effect that boosts your damage, defense, and meter gain, and especially meter gain. Normally, when you use a super in Guilty Gear, you have a meter penalty. So running forward usually gives you meter in this game, but I'm not getting any. It took me quite a while. And Dark Angel has also this meter penalty. And it makes sense. This super is really, 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 really good. So not only the time that I can move after, but also this extended period, because it's a uniquely powerful super. But my thought is, if this super is so good and meter is so important, shouldn't one of my main goals in a match is to get positive bonus so I could do this super easier? It became more realistic too as my neutral ideas improved for control, and across various matches, I still found myself overall on the losing end, but I could clearly see the progress, especially once I broke the wall. I continued to focus on this, and the next day, day 4, my matches felt progressively better, but there was still a problem I was not totally ready to deal with. Now, in this game, you'll usually hear high-level players talk about problems from their character's perspective. So, for example, I main Baiken, and I would say something like, for Baiken versus Kai, a problem is that Kai is really good at building meter from far, and he can get access to Shock State, his unique mechanic, from neutral easily on her because she's not fast. And this is hard to stop. This makes sense, but it's also a developed perspective. I've played Baiken since Season 2, and most questions that people have when they start characters like, how do I stop people from doing wake up throw, or how do I stop people from doing make up backdash, don't really apply to me. On day 5, I ran into a big problem for Venom. And really, honestly, I say one, but it's 2 problems. And the thing that hurts the most is that Venom is supposed to be good in neutral, and both these problems involved the neutral game. Now, don't get me wrong, Dark Angel was an amazing move, and this move was carrying me. But this is a super, and it costs meter to do. So I need meter for that. Before that, the dreaded dash block reared its ugly head. And at a funny time too, especially because people were talking about dash macros from other games. Now, dash blocking is a pretty common tactic in this game, so unlike older Guilty Gear games, dash is on a button, so you don't have to do the traditional way of doing 6-6 or 4-4, so forward or back. You could press back plus the dash button, and forward plus the dash button. This is great for the sake of accessibility, but adding a dash button to a fighting game requires a lot of considerations because it changes how the game is played because of how easily you can move across the screen. So not only does this game have a dash button, but you can also block without recovery. Basically, hitting someone out of their dash is almost impossible unless they are screwing up or running really far or something. And this is because Run does not have a recovery anymore. Even though there's this little skid of them stopping, in an older Guilty Gear game, this gets you hit, and you have to do dash FD to stop yourself. So in this game, you use dash plus FD for really small micro spacing adjustments, but in older Guilty Gear games, it did this and made it so you would not get hit out of your run. The combination of these two changes can make your life very difficult depending on what character you want to play. So remember earlier when I said zoners could go from neutral to offense with their zoning, and I was pretty sure Venom could do that too. A character like Happy Chaos can shoot you, run up at you, and just pressure you. A character like Asuka can fire projectiles quickly and assess whether or not to press the situation or not. A character like Jacko can move from full screen to point blank with advantage very quickly. While my control with Venom was good, I still hadn't quite figured out this aspect, and to be honest, on this day, I wasn't even sure if he could do it, and I was getting ran down hard. And I felt this in a couple of ways in different matchups. Against Baiken, she's not fast, but she has the long-reaching 2H, which is low profile from his first active frame. She could use this to go under some traveling balls on screen, or she could use her large JS to hit Venom from ranges that other characters can't. And like old Guilty Gear games, anything involving ball sets are a counter hit state for him. But there was also Elfeld, who is just generally fast, and if I made one small miscalculation, she would end up point blank. From there, she would overwhelm me with her powerful and yet also so simple high-low. My neutral control and use of Dark Angel was good, but it just wasn't enough. But after watching some clips, I noticed something really big. I noticed that one of my biggest problems was using Stinger from a point blank range. And there's actually nothing wrong with this on paper because this move is incredibly safe. It's -2, but panicking at the approaching opponent, I would back off to try to set up at an opponent that was already trying to run at me from that range. I think that was what was really costing me. So my solution ended up being, if that is going to happen, then there's two things I need to do. So one idea I had was to use the P ball set to do something that's lower that can't be low profiled that the opponent can run into. What's nice about this is that it is a slow traveling ball that I could run behind and assess the situation with. But the other thing I thought of was if the opponent was dash blocking at me anyway, I should use the S ball set and knock a ball down towards them for advantage. Because if they're running at me, then they're going to run into this anyway. Basically saying that I should have a long distance ball plan and a close range ball plan, but the close range ball plan involves the character running into things, not actually them being close to me, if that makes sense. And this was huge for my gameplay. And from there, I found characters that had to approach me far easier as I was finally getting the mix-ups from neutral that I was so looking for. This only led me to one last problem. I had no problem doing high-lows. My neutral control was better. The only final remaining problem involved his damage output. And this is what I spent the last day of the week on. The first thing I learned of him was a simple setup. How to go into a simple knockdown into mix-up. The thing is, I've played a low mix-up damage character before, Milia, and one of the biggest fixes, especially in what I think is her best version, Season 3, is not spending so much time mixing people up. Rather than spending a lot of time doing a bunch of mix-ups, you do one, but you just try to break the wall ASAP, so you can get all the benefits of positive bonus. But despite that, you're not always going to be in the right position. For example, you're not always going to have wall assault available in order to take people to the corner. Sometimes you're going to have to find ways of breaking the corner from other places and doing more damage, which led me to the thing I had explored the least with the character on the last day, Triumbica, the command grab. This unique command grab essentially has some wall break from anywhere, but notably does not do a lot of damage. You do get access to positive bonus ASAP, which is great and was one of the big goals, but on Twitter it was discovered that this move doesn't quite work the way that we think it does. After the initial risk reduction, your risk does not actually drop until you exit the ball. So there are situations where you can actually do a lot of damage with Triumbica. And to my understanding, since the hits both ignore defense and guts, and you're not applying risk again until you exit the ball, there's actually the opportunity for huge damage like what I just did. So getting this damage was plus positive all of a sudden makes Dark Angel way scarier and his positive situation way scarier. So I think this move is like the last level of Venom, and it's going to really add to his game because there's not only the threat of high-low, which he can loop to get meter, but there's also the threat of Triumbica, which has different like damage thresholds depending on whether or not you have a ball on him, and it kind of rewards you for his classic game plan of building a bunch of risk because he's just being plussed by you. After playing him for a week, I do see his weaknesses for sure. I think characters that could act from full screen or jump up on the other side of the screen and do things to him are like his worst matchups. If you don't know how to fight dash blocking, I think that's rough too. But I do see like if a character has to run at him, it's pretty annoying for them. And I see potential in this character. I don't think he's the worst character in the game. I think that he's probably like a mid-tier character. Unless the damage from Triumbica gets like pushed to the point where you're like, dude, if you get grabbed by him one time, you lose, which could happen because he could break from anywhere. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what people cook up with him. I think he's a well-made character with defined strengths and weaknesses, which is what everyone kind of wants. I know I just released a tier list, and I didn't have him on a tier list because he just came out, but I am kind of feeling like mid-tier, fine, fair, but cool character from him. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you're interested in Guilty Gear coaching, I do that over on Medify at medify.gg/LordKnight. You can support this channel by going to my Patreon. I do early content, so releasing videos there early, and also some exclusive videos and free content on there too if you're interested in that, so you can go over there. I stream on most days, Mondays through Fridays when I can. Twitch.tv/LordKnight, and we also record videos for my second channel there, LordKnight Chronicles, LK Chronicles. Check that out too. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.